A couple of weeks back, I'd just gotten home from work. It was one of those evenings where you don't have anything particular to do. So I grabbed my phone and started poking around online. You know how it is, scrolling aimlessly, jumping from one thing to the next. After a while, though, even that got old. So I began flipping through my apps, trying to figure out what to do next. That's when I noticed the TikTok app sitting there. I realized I hadn't opened it in a while, so I figured, why not? Maybe I'd find something funny to share with a few friends. At first, it was pretty much what you'd expect. Cosplayers, folks lip-syncing to songs, and the usual viral trends. I probably spent 20 minutes swiping through random videos, chuckling here and there but not seeing anything out of the ordinary. Eventually, I decided I'd wasted enough time and told myself, all right, that's enough of that. Time to do something useful. But when I went to close the app by pressing the home button, it didn't budge. The screen just froze there, like it was glued to TikTok. I tried again, thinking maybe I didn't press hard enough, but nothing happened. I even started mashing the button a few times, but the app refused to close. Then things got even weirder. My phone screen started acting up. It was almost like it had a mind of its own. It would flash on and off, clicking on random things I hadn't touched. I sat there, watching it glitch out, feeling my chest tighten a little. It wasn't just annoying, it felt wrong. Almost like something unseen was messing with my phone on purpose. By this point, I was starting to get really irritated. My phone was practically brand new, only a couple of weeks old, and I'd never had any issues with it. The last thing I wanted was to deal with the hassle of taking it in for repairs or worse, trying to get it replaced. So, I did what anyone would do. I decided to shut the phone down and restart it. But the weird thing was, when it powered back up, the TikTok app was still open, like it had just refused to go away. I let out a loud, frustrated groan, muttering under my breath about how ridiculous this was. And as if the app could hear me, it suddenly froze, completely locking up my screen. That's when my phone started to heat up, like I was running some superpower-hungry game or leaving it out in the sun too long. I stared at it, puzzled, wondering what the heck was going on. Then, without me touching anything, the app started swiping through videos on its own. At first, I assumed it was just showing the usual stuff, the most popular clips on the platform. But something about the way it was behaving made me uneasy. When I finally paid attention to the videos flashing across my screen, my breath caught and my stomach churned. What I saw wasn't the typical guy in a backwards hat lip-syncing to some pop song. No, this was something much darker, something I never expected to see. There was no music, no catchy soundbite, just silence. The video showed a pair of hands, big, rough ones with hairy knuckles, digging into soil. At first, I couldn't make sense of it, but then I saw what the person was uncovering. Flesh. My heart nearly stopped when I realized what was happening. A nose, eyes, and teeth slowly emerged from the dirt as the man kept digging. It was a person, buried there, being unearthed like some horrifying discovery. Before I could process it, the app swiped to the next video. The screen now showed a continuation of what I'd just seen. It was like the clips were part of some grotesque series, all strung together on my feed. But it didn't make sense. It wasn't from an account I could click on. There were no views, no comments, no username. Nothing. Just video after video, like the app itself was showing me something it shouldn't have. And then came the next one. On the screen, all I could see was the man's hand as he frantically clawed at the dirt. He was uncovering more of the woman buried beneath it, her face ghostly pale, with a sickly hue that hinted at decomposition just starting to set in. Each swipe of the screen revealed another horrifying slide, and with each one, he exposed more of her body to the camera. The sound in the videos was minimal, but what I could hear made it worse. There was no background music or chatter, just the man's labored breathing and panicked grunts as he worked to pull the dirt away. It was frantic, desperate, almost as if he was racing against time. Then the next slide came and the scene had changed entirely. Now he was indoors in what appeared to be a rundown house. The camera seemed to be balanced on something, giving me a full view of him for the first time. He was a strange, unsettling sight, wearing a pair of dirty jeans held up by suspenders, a woman's blouse that didn't fit quite right, and over his head was a crude sack with 2 eye holes cut into it. Around his neck hung a belt, tied loosely like some grotesque accessory. My stomach turned as I saw what he was doing. He was at the base of a staircase, dragging something heavy up from the basement. It didn't take much to guess what or who it was. I couldn't see her clearly yet, but I knew it had to be the same woman from the earlier slides. The thought alone sent a shiver racing down my spine. The next video switched to a different camera angle, showing more of the house. It was a disgusting, filthy living room that could only belong to someone completely unhinged. The floor was littered with trash, and rats scurried across it, darting in and out of holes in the walls. Flies buzzed around the room in thick, lazy swarms. Just looking at it made me want to gag, and I couldn't even imagine how awful it must have smelled. The man dragged the woman into the living room, her body limp and unnervingly pale. I told myself over and over that this had to be some kind of twisted prank, that she couldn't really be dead. But the discoloration in her skin and the lifeless way her arms hung down made it impossible to believe my own lies. My throat tightened, and I fought the urge to retch. This couldn't be real. Couldn't be. But every part of it felt so disturbingly genuine, from the filthy room to the unnatural pallor of the woman's skin. It was all too much, and I was powerless to look away. The next slide appeared, and it showed yet another angle of the room. This time I could see a large wooden cross leaning against the wall, right where a TV might have been in any other living room. The man was there, too, holding the woman's lifeless body. He struggled to lift her, pressing her against the cross as if he was about to do something unspeakable. That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. My heart was pounding, my hands were shaking, and I felt like I was going to be sick. I had no idea why I was being shown this horrifying scene or why the app seemed to be controlling itself. Every time I thought about closing it, the slides would just keep changing on their own, as if someone else had hijacked my phone entirely. I bolted downstairs, taking the steps 2 at a time, desperate to get away from whatever was happening on my screen. My dad was sitting in the living room, sipping his coffee and scrolling through his laptop. He's a cop, so I figured if anyone could make sense of this mess, or at least take me seriously, it would be him. "Dad, you've got to see this," I stammered, holding out my phone. My voice was shaky, and I could feel tears welling up in my eyes. He looked up at me, confused, but he took the phone from my hands anyway. As soon as he glanced at the screen, though, his expression shifted to one of complete bewilderment. "There's nothing here," he said, handing it back to me. I stared at the phone, completely dumbfounded. The app was gone. Not just closed but uninstalled, like it had never been there in the first place. My fingers swiped through my home screen, then into my app library, but TikTok had completely vanished. "It was right here," I insisted, my voice trembling. "It was showing these videos. They were horrible, Dad. I don't know what's going on." He just gave me a look, the kind that says he thinks you've lost your mind but doesn't want to say it out loud. "Look, you've been working too hard," he said with a sigh. "You're probably just stressed out. Go take a nap or something. You'll feel better after some rest." "But I saw it," I snapped, frustration boiling over. "I swear I did. It wasn't just in my head." He shook his head, dismissing my panic as overthinking, and turned his attention back to his laptop. I stood there for a moment, feeling hopeless and small, like nothing I could say would ever make him believe me. Eventually, I gave up. What else could I do? With my normal phone clutched in my hand, I trudged back upstairs to my room. It was quiet now, too quiet, and the phone looked so innocent, like none of it had ever happened. But I knew what I'd seen. I knew it wasn't just my imagination. As I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the screen, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Whatever had just happened to me, it felt like it had left a mark. Something invisible but heavy, lingering in the air. When I got back to my room, everything seemed normal. Too normal. My phone wasn't glitching anymore, and there were no strange apps or slides popping up on the screen. For a moment, I almost let myself believe that whatever had just happened was over. But curiosity got the better of me. I opened my photo gallery, not expecting to find anything unusual. I figured I'd scroll through some old pictures to distract myself. That's when I saw it. Something that shouldn't have been there. It was a video, one I didn't remember saving. The thumbnail was nothing but a black screen, which only made me more curious. My hands hovered over the screen, hesitation creeping in, but I tapped it anyway. I wish I hadn't. The video opened, and I immediately recognized the man from those TikTok slides. He was in his filthy living room again, but this time he wasn't wearing the odd clothing from before. He was completely nude, except for that sack over his head and the belt still dangling around his neck. He was kneeling in front of the giant wooden cross, the same one I'd seen earlier. Only now, the cross was on fire, flames licking up its sides and casting an eerie, flickering glow across the room. Nailed to the burning cross was the lifeless body of the woman he'd dragged into the living room. Her pale, discolored skin stood out against the firelight, making her look even more haunting. The man was bowing repeatedly, almost rhythmically, as if he were in some kind of trance. With each bow, he chanted the same words over and over in a raspy, guttural voice. Devour her, consume her, devour her, consume her. I felt my stomach twist, the bile rising in my throat as I stared at the screen. It was horrifying, disgusting, and yet I couldn't look away. My hands trembled so hard I nearly dropped the phone. I knew what I should have done. I should have gone downstairs and shown the video to my dad right away. Maybe if he saw it for himself, he'd finally believe me. But the memory of what happened earlier stopped me. What if the video vanished as soon as I handed him the phone, just like the app did? What if he looked at me with that same skeptical expression and told me, once again, that I needed a nap? I couldn't take that chance. And deep down I was scared, not just of the video, but of what might happen if I tried to share it. Something about all of this felt intentional, like whatever was behind it didn't want me to expose it. So, I just sat there, staring at my phone, paralyzed by fear and indecision. The chants echoed in my head. Devour her, consume her. And I couldn't shake the feeling that, somehow, this wasn't over. Looking back, I know I made the wrong choice. I regret it more than I can even put into words. But in that moment, fear completely took over. Instead of showing the video to anyone, my dad, the police, anyone who might have been able to help, I deleted it. Completely. I didn't even think twice. All I wanted was for it to be gone. For the nightmare to end. I was too terrified to do anything else. I kept replaying scenarios in my head, imagining what could happen if I brought it to someone's attention. What if they didn't believe me? What if the video disappeared again, leaving me looking crazy? Or worse, what if whoever or whatever was behind this found out I tried to expose it? I've seen enough horror movies to know how things like that usually go. People who dig too deep, who try to play the hero in situations they don't fully understand, always end up paying the price. I didn't want to be one of those people. I just wanted my life to go back to normal, to pretend none of it ever happened. So, with my hands shaking and my stomach in knots, I hit delete. The video disappeared from my gallery, leaving nothing behind. For a moment I felt relieved. It was like erasing it from my phone erased it from my mind. At least that's what I tried to tell myself. Since then, nothing else has happened. No strange glitches, no mysterious videos, no unexplainable slides showing up on my screen. My phone has worked perfectly fine, as if the whole thing was just some horrible dream. But I know it wasn't. One thing's for sure. I'll never download that app again. Ever. Not even out of curiosity. The thought of opening it and seeing something like that again sends chills down my spine. I don't care how many funny videos or trending challenges I'm missing out on. It's not worth the risk. Even now, though, I can't help but feel a lingering unease. Like whatever I stumbled onto that night wasn't really gone. Just waiting somewhere, biding its time. Sometimes, when I'm alone in the dark, I swear I can still hear those words in the back of my mind. Devour her. Consume her.